The sun hung low over the dusty horizon, casting long shadows across the cemetery where Lily Prescott knelt beside a fresh headstone, her tears falling freely onto the newly turned earth. She had buried her husband Matthew just 3 days ago, victim of a ruthless gang that had ambushed him on his way back from Silver Creek. At 24, Lily never imagined she'd be a widow in this harsh Wyoming territory of 1873. The sound of approaching hoofbeats barely registered through her grief. "Madam, it ain't safe to be out here alone, especially with the sun setting," a deep voice called out. Lily didn't bother looking up. "I don't much care about safe anymore, sir." The rider dismounted, his spurs jingling as his boots hit the ground. She sensed him standing behind her, respectfully keeping his distance. "Name's Jackson Reed. I rode with the posse that went after those men who—" His voice trailed off. Now she turned, taking in the tall cowboy with sun-weathered skin and kind eyes that seemed at odds with the gun holstered at his hip. "Did you catch them?" "We did. They won't harm anyone else now." He knelt beside her, removing his hat. "Mrs. Prescott, I know words don't help much, but I'm mighty sorry for your loss." A fresh wave of tears spilled down Lily's cheeks. To her surprise, Jackson reached out, his calloused thumb gently brushing them away. "We'll love again," he said softly, then looked startled by his own words. "I mean to say you will. Life has a way of bringing new mornings, even after the darkest nights." Lily should have been offended by his presumption, but something in his gentle touch and earnest expression stirred something in her. Not love, not yet, but perhaps the first flicker of hope since Matthew's death. "It's getting dark, madam. Let me escort you back to town," Jackson offered, extending his hand. After a moment's hesitation, Lily placed her fingers in his and allowed him to help her to her feet. Little did she know that this simple gesture would be the first step on a journey that would heal her broken heart. The ride back to Silver Creek was silent, with Lily perched sideways on Jackson's horse, his steady presence behind her oddly comforting. The town came into view, its saloons and storefronts lit up against the gathering darkness. "Where can I take you, Mrs. Prescott?" Jackson asked as they approached the main street. "The millinery shop on Front Street. I have rooms above it," Lily replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Jackson nodded and guided his horse through town. Several onlookers cast curious glances their way, but he paid them no mind. When they reached the shop, he dismounted first, then reached up to help Lily down. His hands were strong at her waist, steadying her as her feet touched the ground. "Thank you, Mr. Reed," she said formally, regaining her composure. "Just Jackson, madam, and it was no trouble." He shuffled his feet slightly. "Mrs. Prescott, I know it's not my place, but if you need anything at all, I'm staying at the boarding house for a spell." Lily studied him in the glow of the nearby street lamp. He was handsome, she couldn't deny that, with his broad shoulders and honest face. But her heart was a graveyard of fresh pain. "That's kind of you, but I'll be fine," she said, reaching for the shop door. "Of course." Jackson replaced his hat and tipped it slightly. "Good night, Mrs. Prescott." As Lily climbed the stairs to her empty rooms, she couldn't shake the memory of his touch on her cheek, or the strange words he'd spoken by Matthew's grave. "We'll love again." Such presumption, such impossible hope. The next morning, Lily opened the millinery shop as usual, though her heart wasn't in it. Few customers came by. Most folks were giving her space to grieve, but around midday, the bell above the door jingled. Jackson Reed stood awkwardly in the doorway, hat in hand. "Mrs. Prescott," he nodded. "Mr. Reed," she acknowledged, putting down the bonnet she'd been half-heartedly trimming. "What brings you to a ladies' hat shop?" He cleared his throat. "I was wondering if you might need help with anything. At your husband's place, I mean. I heard you had a small ranch outside town." Lily's defenses rose. "And how would you know that?" "Sheriff Thompson mentioned it. Said you might be needing to make some decisions about the property, the livestock." The reminder of all she needed to face made Lily's shoulders sag. The ranch had been Matthew's dream. They'd worked the land together for only 2 years before he was taken from her. "I haven't decided what to do yet," she admitted. Jackson nodded. "Well, if you need someone to ride out and check on things, I'd be willing. No charge," he added quickly. "Just trying to be neighborly." Before Lily could respond, the door opened again, and Mrs. Holloway, the banker's wife, entered. Her eyes widened at seeing Jackson there. "Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt, she said with poorly disguised curiosity. You're not interrupting, Lily assured her. Mr. Reed was just leaving. Jackson took the hint. Madam, he said with a nod to Lily, then to Mrs. Holloway, before placing his hat back on his head and departing. Well, Mrs. Holloway said, once the door closed. I didn't expect to see Jackson Reed in a millinery shop. Especially not speaking with you, Lily. He was just offering to help with the ranch, Lily explained, moving behind the counter. What can I help you with today? Mrs. Holloway pretended to examine a display of ribbons. I suppose you wouldn't know, being new to these parts, but Jackson Reed has quite the reputation. Lily's hands stilled. What sort of reputation? He's a bounty hunter, dear. One of the best in the territory, they say. A dangerous man, skilled with a gun. Mrs. Holloway leaned closer. They say he's killed more men than he can count on both hands. Lily thought of the gentle way he'd brushed away her tears, the respect in his voice when he spoke of Matthew. I find that hard to believe. Oh, it's true enough. He doesn't stay in one place long. Just rides in when there's trouble, takes care of it, and moves on. Mrs. Holloway selected a spool of blue ribbon. I'll take 3 yards of this. And Lily, do be careful. A woman alone is vulnerable, especially to a man like that. After Mrs. Holloway left, Lily found herself distracted by thoughts of Jackson Reed. A bounty hunter. That explained why he'd been with the posse that tracked down Matthew's killers. But it didn't explain why he was still in Silver Creek, or why he'd sought her out. By closing time, Lily had made a decision. If Jackson Reed was dangerous, she needed to know more about him before accepting his help. And there was only one person in town who knew everyone's business. Joe Wilkins, the bartender at the Silver Dollar Saloon. Lily had never set foot in a saloon before, and she hesitated outside the swinging doors. The sounds of a piano, raucous laughter, and clinking glasses spilled out into the evening air. Taking a deep breath, she pushed through the doors. The piano stopped abruptly. Conversations halted. Every male head turned to stare at the widow in her somber dress, standing just inside the entrance. Mrs. Prescott. Joe called from behind the bar, clearly shocked. Can I help you with something? Lily straightened her spine and walked directly to the bar, ignoring the whispers that followed her. Mr. Wilkins, I need to speak with you privately. Joe wiped his hands on his apron. Of course. Back here. He lifted a section of the bar and led her to a small office. Once the door closed, Joe's concerned expression softened. Lily, what in tarnation are you doing here? This is no place for a lady, especially one in mourning. I need information, Joe. About Jackson Reed. Joe's eyebrows shot up. Reed? What's your interest in him? Lily explained about the cemetery, his offer of help, and Mrs. Holloway's warnings. Joe listened, nodding occasionally. Well, she's right about one thing. Reed is a bounty hunter, and a good one. Has a reputation for bringing men in alive when he can, though. Joe leaned back in his chair. But there's more to him than that. Used to have a spread up near Laramie. Wife and child, from what I heard. Lost them in an Indian raid about 5 years back. Lily's heart constricted. He lost his family? That's the story. Started hunting bounties after that. Keeps to himself mostly, but he's fair. Helped me once when some drovers were tearing up the place. Joe studied her face. If he offered to help you, I'd take him up on it. Despite his profession, he's a good man. Lily thanked Joe and left through the back door, avoiding the main saloon. She walked slowly back to her rooms, thinking about what she'd learned. Jackson Reed was a widower who'd lost everything, just as she had. Perhaps that explained his words at the cemetery. Perhaps he truly understood her pain. The next morning, Lily closed the shop and headed to the boarding house. Mrs. Peterson, the owner, directed her to the small dining room where Jackson sat alone, eating breakfast. He rose quickly when he saw her. Mrs. Prescott. Mr. Reed, she said, removing her gloves. I've been thinking about your offer. If it still stands, I would appreciate your help at the ranch. I need to assess what's there before deciding whether to sell. A smile briefly touched his lips. The offer stands. When would you like to go? Today, if possible. I can be ready in an hour. Jackson nodded. I'll rent a buggy from the livery. Your ranch is about 5 miles out, correct? Yes, along Cottonwood Creek. Lily hesitated. Mr. Reed, I should tell you that I've asked about you. I know you're a bounty hunter. His expression didn't change. Does that change your mind about accepting my help? No. she said honestly. If anything, it reassures me. You must be good at assessing situations, making difficult decisions. I try to be fair, he said simply. I'll meet you outside your shop in an hour. True to his word, Jackson arrived with a rented buggy precisely 1 hour later. Lily had changed into a simpler dress and brought a basket with some food for the day. The journey to the ranch was initially quiet, but as they left town behind, Lily found herself asking questions about Jackson's work, his travels. He answered candidly, but briefly. Yes, he'd been a bounty hunter for almost 5 years. No, he didn't enjoy killing, but sometimes it was unavoidable. He'd tracked men all over the territory and into Colorado and Nebraska. And before that, Lily asked carefully, were you always in this line of work? Jackson's hands tightened on the reins. No, I had a small cattle ranch near Laramie. What happened? For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, his voice low, he said, Cheyenne raid. I was away, delivering cattle to Fort Laramie. When I got back, he didn't need to finish. I'm sorry, Lily said softly. Was it? Did you have family? Wife? Sarah? And a son, Thomas? He was 3. Jackson's voice was devoid of emotion, but Lily could sense the pain beneath his controlled exterior. How do you go on after something like that? She asked, her own grief still so raw. Jackson glanced at her, his eyes softening. One day at a time, Mrs. Prescott. You wake up, you breathe, you put one foot in front of the other. Some days are harder than others. Does it ever get easier? Not easier. Different. The pain changes shape, becomes something you can carry. He pointed ahead. Is that your place there? Lily looked up to see the familiar sight of the small ranch house nestled against a stand of cottonwoods. The barn needed painting, and the corral fence had a broken section, but it was home, or had been. Yes, she said, emotion clogging her throat. Jackson guided the buggy up to the house and helped Lily down. She stood for a moment, staring at the front door, gathering her courage. Would you prefer to go in alone first? Jackson asked quietly. Lily shook her head. No, thank you. But would you mind checking the barn? I should see if anything in the house needs attention. Jackson nodded and headed toward the barn, while Lily climbed the familiar steps to the porch. The door wasn't locked, few were in these parts, and she pushed it open, steeling herself for the rush of memories. Everything was just as they'd left it. Matthew's coat hung by the door. His favorite chair sat beside the cold fireplace. Dishes from their last breakfast together still sat in the dry sink, waiting to be washed. Lily moved through the small house like a ghost, touching things that had been part of their daily life together. In their bedroom, she sat on the edge of the bed they'd shared, finally allowing herself to weep freely. She wasn't sure how long she sat there before a soft knock at the front door pulled her back to the present. Jackson stood on the porch, respectfully waiting. Mrs. Prescott, the livestock looks to be in good shape. Your neighbor, Johnson, has been feeding them. There's 6 head of cattle, 2 horses, and some chickens. Lily wiped her eyes, embarrassed he might notice she'd been crying. Thank you. Mr. Johnson is kind to have looked after things. He left a note in the barn. Says he's willing to buy the place if you decide to sell. Offered a fair price, from what I can tell. Jackson remained on the porch, seemingly understanding her need for space. That's good to know. Lily stepped back. Would you like some coffee? I brought supplies. Jackson hesitated, then nodded. Thank you. I'll get a fire going. They worked together in companionable silence, Jackson building a fire in the stove while Lily unpacked the coffee and biscuits she'd brought. Once the coffee was brewing, filling the house with its familiar aroma, Lily felt more at ease. Did you and your husband build this place? Jackson asked, accepting the cup she offered. Matthew built the house before we married. We added the lean-to kitchen together. Lily sat at the small table. It was his dream to have a cattle ranch. We were just getting started, really. It's good land, Jackson observed. Stream nearby, good grazing. Yes, Matthew chose well. Lily stared into her coffee cup. I don't know the first thing about running a ranch, though, and staying here alone. It would be difficult, Jackson agreed. Though not impossible. Many women manage ranches on their own. Do you think I should sell to Mr. Johnson? Jackson looked surprised at the question. That's not for me to say, Mrs. Prescott. It depends on what you want for your future. The problem is, I don't know what I want, Lily admitted. Everything I planned, everything I dreamed, it was with Matthew. Now I feel. Lost, Jackson's eyes met hers, and for a moment, Lily felt he could see straight into her soul. I understand that feeling. After Sarah and Thomas died, I wandered for months, not caring if I lived or died. Taking bounties was just a way to keep moving. What changed? A faint smile touched his lips. Time. And realizing that living recklessly wasn't honoring their memory. Sarah would have wanted me to find purpose again. And have you? Found purpose? Jackson considered the question. I've found meaning in bringing criminals to justice. It's not the life I would have chosen, but it's a life with some value. They finished their coffee, and Lily suggested they check the rest of the property. As they walked the boundaries, Jackson pointed out work that needed doing: fence repairs, a section of roof on the barn that needed patching. Lily listened, making mental notes, though she wasn't sure why. If she sold to Johnson, these would be his problems. By late afternoon, they had completed their survey of the ranch. Lily had packed a few personal items to take back to town, but the bulk of the decisions about the property and possessions would have to wait for another day. As they prepared to leave, Jackson helped Lily into the buggy, his hand warm and steady on hers. "Thank you for today," she said. "I couldn't have faced this alone." "You're stronger than you give yourself credit for, Mrs. Prescott," he replied, climbing up beside her. On the journey back to Silver Creek, they talked more easily. Lily told him about growing up in Missouri, moving west with her family after the war, meeting Matthew at a church social. Jackson shared stories of his own youth in Pennsylvania, his decision to head west after the war, his dreams of raising cattle. "Will you go back to ranching someday?" Lily asked. Jackson shook his head. "That dream died with Sarah and Thomas. I don't stay in one place long enough to put down roots anymore." "That sounds lonely." He glanced at her, something unreadable in his expression. "It can be, but it suits me now." As they reached the outskirts of town, Lily realized she didn't want the day to end. Despite the painful memories she'd confronted at the ranch, Jackson's steady presence had made it bearable. More than that, she'd enjoyed his company. "Mr. Reed Jackson," she began hesitantly, "would you join me for supper? It's the least I can do to thank you." Surprise flickered across his face, followed by something that might have been pleasure. "I'd be honored, Mrs. Prescott. But folks might talk. A widow dining with a man so soon after." "Let them talk," Lily said with sudden determination. "I'm tired of living my life according to what others might think." A slow smile spread across Jackson's face, transforming his serious features. "In that case, I accept, though I should probably clean up first." They agreed to meet at the hotel restaurant at 7. Lily spent more time than she'd expected selecting a dress, not her black mourning clothes, but a dark blue that had been a favorite before Matthew's death. She told herself it was simply appropriate for an evening meal, not an attempt to look pretty for Jackson Reed. When she entered the hotel dining room, she spotted him immediately. He'd clearly made an effort as well, wearing a clean white shirt and dark vest, his usually tousled hair neatly combed. He rose as she approached, pulling out her chair with old-world courtesy. "You look lovely, Mrs. Prescott," he said, his voice low. "Thank you. And please, call me Lily." The words came easily, surprising her. "Lily," he repeated, as if testing the name. "It suits you." The meal was better than Lily had expected, but it was the conversation that made the evening memorable. They talked of books they'd read, places they'd seen, childhood memories. Jackson was well-spoken and knowledgeable, belying his rugged exterior. "How did you become so well-read?" Lily asked as they shared a slice of apple pie. "My mother was a schoolteacher. She believed education was important, even for a boy who would likely spend his life working with his hands." Jackson's expression grew fond. "She'd be horrified to know I became a bounty hunter." "What would she have wanted for you?" "Something respectable. Doctor, lawyer, banker." He chuckled. "I was never suited for those professions. Too restless." "And now? Are you still restless?" Jackson's eyes met hers, and something in his gaze made Lily's heart beat faster. "Less so lately." The evening ended too soon. Jackson walked Lily back to her rooms above the millinery, maintaining a respectful distance on the moonlit streets. "Thank you for supper," he said as they reached her door. "I haven't enjoyed an evening so much in a long time." "Nor have I," Lily admitted. "Will you be staying in Silver Creek much longer?" A shadow crossed his face. "I received word today of a job up near Cheyenne. I'll be leaving tomorrow." Disappointment washed over Lily, stronger than she would have expected. "Oh, I see. It shouldn't take more than a week or two," Jackson added quickly. "If you'd permit me, I'd like to call on you when I return. Perhaps help you with more decisions about the ranch." Lily knew she should refuse. It was too soon after Matthew's death for her to be feeling this pull toward another man. Yet she couldn't deny the connection between them, the ease she felt in his company. "I'd like that," she said softly. Jackson took her hand and raised it to his lips, the gesture courtly yet somehow intimate. "Good night, Lily." "Good night, Jackson. Be safe." As she watched him walk away, Lily realized with a pang that she would miss him. In just 2 days, this quiet, complicated man had begun to breach the walls of grief around her heart. The realization was both frightening and exhilarating. True to his word, Jackson left town the next morning. Lily returned to her daily routine, opening the shop, creating and mending hats, closing up at dusk. But her thoughts frequently strayed to Jackson, wondering where he was, if he was safe, when he might return. 2 weeks passed with no word. Lily made another trip to the ranch, this time accompanied by Mr. Johnson, who reiterated his interest in buying the property. She thanked him, but said she needed more time to decide. The truth was, she was waiting for Jackson's return before making any final decisions. Nearly 3 weeks after Jackson's departure, Lily was closing the shop when Sheriff Thompson appeared at her door. "Evening, Mrs. Prescott. May I have a word?" "Of course, Sheriff." Lily invited him in, noting his serious expression. "Is something wrong?" Thompson removed his hat, turning it in his hands. "It's about Jackson Reed. I received a telegram from the sheriff in Cheyenne." Lily's heart seemed to stop. "Is he?" "He's alive," Thompson said quickly, "but injured. He was ambushed by the men he was tracking. Took a bullet in the shoulder. He's at the doctor's office in Cheyenne." Relief flooded through Lily, followed immediately by concern. "Is it serious?" "Telegram didn't say much. Just that he's asking for you." Lily stared at the sheriff in surprise. "For me? Specifically?" Thompson nodded. "By name. Said to tell you he's sorry he couldn't keep his promise to return." Lily's mind raced. Cheyenne was a day's journey by train. She would need to close the shop, pack a bag, arrange for a ticket. "When does the next train leave for Cheyenne?" she asked, already moving to gather her things. Thompson looked startled. "You're going?" "Mrs. Prescott, it's not proper for a lady to travel alone to see a man she barely knows, especially one in your position." "My position?" Lily straightened, meeting the sheriff's gaze directly. "You mean as a widow?" "Sheriff, I appreciate your concern, but Mr. Reed helped me when I needed it most. If he's asking for me now, I won't turn my back on him." Thompson studied her for a long moment, then sighed. "Train leaves at 8 tomorrow morning. I'll have my wife accompany you to the station." Lily thanked him, and, once he left, rushed upstairs to pack. As she moved around her small rooms, selecting clothes and necessities, she questioned her own actions. Why was she so eager to go to Jackson? What did it say about her feelings for Matthew that she could be so concerned about another man so soon? But deep down, Lily knew the truth. In the short time she'd known Jackson Reed, something had awakened in her, something she thought had died with Matthew. The possibility of connection, of understanding, of perhaps even love again. The journey to Cheyenne was long and uncomfortable, despite the relative luxury of the train. Lily's mind conjured worst-case scenarios about Jackson's condition, imagining him gravely wounded or even dying while she was still en route. By the time the train pulled into Cheyenne Station late that afternoon, her nerves were frayed. A young boy directed her to Dr. Wilson's office on the main street. The doctor, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, met her at the door. "Mrs. Prescott, I'm Dr. Wilson. Mr. Reed will be mighty pleased to see you. He's been quite restless." "How is he?" Lily asked, removing her gloves. "Lucky. The bullet went clean through his shoulder, missed anything vital. He's lost blood and needs rest, but he should make a full recovery." Dr. Wilson led her down a hallway. "He's been asking about you since he regained consciousness." The doctor opened a door to reveal a small, neat room. Jackson lay on the bed, his left shoulder heavily bandaged, his face pale against the white pillows. His eyes were closed, but they opened at the sound of the door. "Lily," his voice was weak but clear. "I'm here." She moved to his bedside, taking the chair the doctor pulled up for her. "You gave me quite a scare, Mr. Reed." A faint smile touched his lips. Back to Mr. Reed, am I? Must be in trouble. Dr. Wilson quietly excused himself, leaving them alone. Lily took Jackson's hand, noticing how warm it felt compared to her cold fingers. What happened? She asked. Jackson's expression darkened. Ambush. I was tracking 3 men wanted for stage robbery. They had a 4th man I didn't know about. He got behind me. He shifted slightly, wincing. Careless mistake. You're alive. That's what matters. Lily squeezed his hand. The sheriff said you were asking for me. A flush that had nothing to do with fever colored Jackson's cheeks. I wasn't sure you'd come. It was presumptuous of me to ask. Yet here I am. Lily smiled softly. Here you are, he echoed, his eyes warm. Thank you. They talked quietly for a while longer, until Dr. Wilson returned to check on his patient. He advised Lily to find lodging for the night and return in the morning, as Jackson needed rest. There's a respectable boarding house 2 doors down, the doctor suggested. Mrs. Abernathy takes in ladies traveling alone. Lily thanked him and promised Jackson she'd return the next day. As she arranged for a room at the boarding house, she reflected on how drastically her life had changed in just a month. From grieving widow to traveling alone to Cheyenne to visit a wounded bounty hunter, what would the good people of Silver Creek think? To her surprise, Lily realized she didn't care. For the first time since Matthew's death, she was making choices based on her own feelings rather than society's expectations. The next morning, Lily returned to find Jackson sitting up in bed, looking considerably better than the previous day. His eyes brightened when she entered the room. You look well, she observed, taking the chair beside his bed. Amazing what a good night's sleep can do, he replied. Dr. Wilson says I can travel in a few days, as long as I don't try to use this arm. Back to Silver Creek? Jackson nodded. For a while, at least. I need to recover my strength before taking on any new jobs. Lily felt a surge of pleasure at the thought of him returning to town, then guilt at her reaction. She looked down at her hands. Jackson, I'm confused about this. About us. It's only been a month since Matthew died. I shouldn't be feeling anything for someone else, he finished gently when she trailed off. Yes, it seems disloyal somehow. Jackson was quiet for a moment. After Sarah died, I thought I'd never feel anything again except grief and rage. When those feelings started to fade, I felt guilty, like I was betraying her memory. Exactly, Lily whispered. But I've come to believe that the capacity to love again doesn't diminish what we had before. It honors it. Jackson reached for her hand. Lily, I don't expect anything from you. I know it's too soon, but I'd like the chance to see where this might lead, if you're willing. Lily looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity there. I'd like that too, but slowly. As slow as you need, he promised. I'm not going anywhere for a while. Over the next 3 days, Lily visited Jackson twice daily. They talked for hours, sharing stories from their pasts, discussing books, debating politics. With each conversation, Lily felt herself drawn more deeply to this complex man with his quiet strength and unexpected gentleness. By the 4th day, Dr. Wilson declared Jackson fit to travel. The train leaves tomorrow morning, the doctor informed them. I've arranged for a private compartment so you can rest comfortably, Mr. Reed. Thank you, doctor. Jackson turned to Lily. Will you travel back with me? Of course, she replied without hesitation. Someone needs to make sure you follow the doctor's orders. The journey back to Silver Creek was considerably more pleasant than Lily's trip to Cheyenne. Despite his injury, Jackson was attentive and engaging company. They shared the small compartment with proper decorum, but there was an undeniable intimacy in their quiet conversations as the landscape rolled by. Have you decided what to do about the ranch? Jackson asked as they neared Silver Creek. Lily shook her head. Not yet. Mr. Johnson is still interested in buying it, but part of me can't bear to let it go. It was Matthew's dream. What about your dreams, Lily? What do you want? The question caught her off guard. I'm not sure anymore. I enjoyed our life at the ranch, but it was Matthew's vision, not mine. Before I met him, I dreamed of having my own millinery shop in a big city like Denver or San Francisco. You're talented. I've seen the hats in your shop window. Lily smiled at the compliment. Thank you. I've always loved creating beautiful things. But I also came to love the quiet of ranch life, being close to nature. Perhaps you don't have to choose just yet, Jackson suggested. The ranch isn't going anywhere. Take your time deciding. When they arrived in Silver Creek, the station was nearly deserted. Jackson insisted on seeing Lily safely to her rooms despite his own fatigue. At her door, he took her hand. "Thank you for coming to Cheyenne. It meant more than I can say." "I'm glad I did," Lily replied honestly. "Will you be all right at the boarding house?" "Your shoulder." "I'll manage. Mrs. Peterson has promised to look after me." He smiled wryly. "I think she sees me as a project." Lily laughed. "Get some rest." "Doctor's orders." "Yes, madam." Jackson hesitated, then leaned forward and placed a gentle kiss on her cheek. "Good night, Lily." The touch of his lips sent a shiver through her. "Good night, Jackson." Over the next few weeks, Jackson became a regular visitor at the millinery shop. He would stop by in the afternoons when business was slow, sometimes bringing a book to share or news from around town. Though his shoulder was healing well, he remained in Silver Creek, taking odd jobs that didn't require gun work. Lily found herself looking forward to his visits, planning what she would tell him about her day, what questions she wanted to ask. They developed a comfortable routine, sharing coffee and conversation as the weeks passed. The townsfolk noticed, of course. Some, like Mrs. Holloway, made disapproving comments about the impropriety of Lily entertaining a man so soon after her husband's death. Others, particularly those who had seen how she withdrew into herself after Matthew died, were pleased to see her engaging with life again. Sheriff Thompson was among the latter. "Reed's a good man," he told Lily one day when he stopped by the shop. "Different since he met you. Calmer. More settled." "We're just friends," Lily protested, though she knew her feelings for Jackson had grown beyond friendship. Thompson gave her a knowing look. "If you say so. Just wanted you to know not everyone in town disapproves. Some of us remember what it's like to be young and find unexpected happiness." Summer turned to fall, and with the changing season came a shift in Lily and Jackson's relationship. They began taking Sunday afternoon rides to the ranch, where Jackson would make repairs while Lily cleaned and maintained the house. They never discussed why they were keeping the property in good condition, but both seemed to understand that Lily wasn't ready to sell. On a crisp October day, they packed a picnic lunch and rode out to the ranch as usual. After checking the livestock now down to just 2 horses and a milk cow that Mr. Johnson cared for in exchange for the milk, they sat beneath the cottonwoods by the stream. "Winter will be here soon," Jackson observed, watching golden leaves drift down around them. "Yes," Lily agreed. "Another season passing." Jackson turned to look at her, his expression serious. "Lily, there's something I need to tell you." Her heart constricted. "You're leaving?" "No," he said quickly. "Just the opposite, actually. I've been offered a job. Sheriff Thompson is getting on in years, thinking of retiring. He's asked if I'd consider taking over as deputy, with an eye toward becoming sheriff eventually." Lily stared at him in surprise. "You'd stay in Silver Creek?" "Permanently. I'm considering it. It would mean giving up bounty hunting, settling down." Jackson met her gaze steadily. "I wanted to know how you'd feel about that." "How I'd feel," Lily repeated, hardly daring to hope what his words implied. Jackson took her hand. "Lily, these past months with you have been the happiest I've known since I lost my family. You've brought meaning back into my life, given me a reason to think about the future again." "Jackson, please, let me finish." He took a deep breath. "I know it's only been 5 months since Matthew died. I know you're still grieving, still finding your way. But I love you, Lily. I think I started falling in love with you that first day at the cemetery, when you were so broken, yet still so strong." Tears welled in Lily's eyes. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything now," Jackson assured her. "I just wanted you to know where I stand, why I'm considering the deputy position. I want to build a life here hopefully with you, when you're ready." Lily looked at their joined hands, then up at the man who had become so important to her. "I've been feeling so guilty," she confessed. "About Matthew, about how quickly my heart has turned to you. I loved him, Jackson. Truly loved him. I know you did. Just as I loved Sarah. But I love you too," Lily whispered, the words finally spoken aloud. "I think I have for some time now." Jackson's face transformed with joy. He reached out to touch her cheek, his fingers gentle. "May I kiss you, Lily?" She nodded, her heart pounding as he leaned forward. His lips met hers in a kiss that was both tender and passionate, speaking of longing restrained and hope renewed. When they parted, Lily felt breathless. "I want you to take the deputy position," she said. I want you to stay in Silver Creek. And the ranch? Jackson asked. What do you want to do about this place? Lily looked around at the small homestead that held so many memories. I think Matthew would want it to be a home again, filled with life and love. Maybe we could make it that, someday. Jackson smiled, understanding her meaning. Someday, when you're ready. They returned to town that evening with a new understanding between them. Though they agreed to move slowly, mindful of Lily's recent widowhood, both felt the promise of a future together. Jackson accepted the deputy position, moving from the boarding house to small quarters behind the sheriff's office. Lily continued running the millinery shop, but began spending more time at the ranch, gradually bringing it back to life with Jackson's help. As winter settled over Silver Creek, their courtship progressed with quiet dignity. They attended church together, shared meals, and spent evenings reading by the fire in Lily's sitting room. Though tongues wagged at first, the townspeople gradually accepted their relationship as they witnessed the positive changes in both Lily and Jackson. The Christmas season brought fresh snow and festive gatherings. At the town's holiday social, Jackson and Lily danced together for the first time, her dark green dress a statement that her formal mourning period had ended. You look beautiful tonight, Jackson murmured as they waltzed around the decorated town hall. Thank you. Lily smiled up at him. This is the first time I've danced since before Matthew died. It feels good. Does it make you sad, thinking of him? Lily considered the question honestly. A little. I'll always have moments of sadness when I remember what I lost. But mostly, I feel grateful now, grateful for the time we had, and grateful that I found you. Jackson's arms tightened around her. I feel the same way about Sarah. The grief doesn't disappear, but it makes room for new joy. As they danced, Lily realized how far she had come from that grief-stricken woman kneeling beside a fresh grave. Jackson had been right that day when he gently kissed away her tears and whispered those seemingly presumptuous words, "We'll love again." They had both found their way back to love, through pain and loss, to a new beginning. On New Year's Eve, with snow falling gently outside, Jackson proposed properly. They sat before the fire in Lily's sitting room, having just returned from the town's celebration. I have something for you, he said, reaching into his pocket. A New Year's gift. He handed her a small wooden box, beautifully carved with wildflowers. Inside, nestled on a bed of velvet, was a delicate gold ring set with a small diamond. It was my mother's, Jackson explained. I've carried it with me all these years, waiting for the right time, the right person. Lily touched the ring reverently. It's beautiful. Lily Prescott, I love you with all my heart. Would you do me the honor of becoming my wife? Tears of happiness filled Lily's eyes. Yes, Jackson. Yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger, then sealed their engagement with a tender kiss. They were married in the spring, when wildflowers carpeted the prairie around Silver Creek. The ceremony was small but joyful, held in the town church with Sheriff Thompson giving the bride away. Afterward, they rode to the ranch, their ranch now, where they would begin their life together. As twilight fell on their wedding day, Jackson found Lily standing beside the cottonwoods, looking out over the land. Having second thoughts? He asked, slipping his arms around her waist from behind. She leaned back against him, shaking her head. Just thinking about the journey that brought us here. 6 months ago, I thought my life was over. I couldn't imagine ever being happy again. Jackson turned her in his arms to face him. And now I know that love doesn't die, even when we lose someone. It changes us, becomes part of who we are. Lily placed her hand on his cheek. Matthew will always be in my heart, just as Sarah and Thomas will be in yours. But we've built something new together, something just as real and precious. More precious to me than anything, Jackson said softly, lowering his lips to hers. As the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, they walked hand in hand back to the house, their house, where lamps glowed warmly in the windows. No longer a bounty hunter, no longer a grieving widow, they had become something new together, a family, forged from loss but strengthened by love. 1 year later, on a bright June morning, Lily gave birth to a daughter they named Hope. Jackson held the tiny infant with wonder, his eyes filling with tears of joy. She's perfect, he whispered, gently touching the downy hair on his daughter's head. She is, Lily agreed, exhausted but radiant. Our new beginning. As Sheriff Reed now Thompson had retired as planned, Jackson had built a reputation as a fair and capable lawman. The town respected him, and the ranch prospered under his and Lily's care. They had added more cattle, expanded the barn, and Lily had converted one room of the house into a small workroom where she created hats for her shop in town. Their life wasn't without challenges. There were difficult days when memories of their lost loved ones seemed especially vivid. There were times when Jackson's duties as sheriff placed him in danger, leaving Lily anxious and afraid. But through it all, their love remained steadfast, a beacon guiding them forward. On the second anniversary of their meeting, Jackson took Lily to the cemetery where they had first encountered each other. Matthew's grave was well maintained, with fresh flowers that Lily brought regularly. "I wanted to thank him," Jackson said quietly as they stood beside the headstone. "For loving you, for making you the woman you are." Lily squeezed his hand. "And I want to thank Sarah, wherever she is, for teaching you how to love so completely." They stood in silence for a moment, honoring the past while embracing their present. Little Hope slept peacefully in her father's arms, oblivious to the significance of the moment. As they turned to leave, Jackson stopped and brushed a tear from Lily's cheek, a tear not of sorrow, but of gratitude for the journey they had shared. "We loved again," he said softly, echoing his words from that first day. "Yes," Lily replied, stretching up to kiss him. "And we always will." In the years that followed, their family grew. Hope was joined by a brother, Samuel, and later by another sister, Grace. The ranch expanded, becoming one of the most successful in the county. Lily's millinery business flourished, with her designs sought after by ladies throughout the territory. Through it all, Jackson and Lily cherished the unexpected gift they had been given, a second chance at love, built on the foundation of shared grief, transformed into shared joy. Their story became something of a legend in Silver Creek, a testament to the resilience of the human heart and its capacity to heal, to hope, and to love again. And on quiet evenings, when the children were asleep and the ranch was bathed in moonlight, they would sit together on the porch, hands entwined, marveling at the journey that had brought them from that cemetery to this moment, two broken souls who had found wholeness together.